You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that needs top quality entertainers on zero budget. I'm your host Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is the Belle from Hell burlesque performer Miss Memphis Shell.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, my dear. How are you?
I'm very good. Did you like my little poem there for you?
Yes, it was actually, that's beautiful. I'm going to write that down and keep it for myself.
Yeah, well, I did take it from your bio, so it's all yours.
I was trying to give you some credit there.
No, that's okay. I'm not going to steal credit for anybody.
It's okay. I'm not touchy about it.
Yeah. So, Shell, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into it?
Yeah, no problem. So I am a burlesque performer. And for anybody who doesn't know what burlesque performance is, it's like a type of variety performance. And it can go from like comedy to like very provocative acts on stage. And it can, and sometimes cannot, have moments where you will take clothes off and reveal your beautiful bodies on stage.
Brilliant. And how did you get into that?
So like years ago, I've always had a fascination with it. And I suppose a lot of performers will always go back to the fact that they've seen like Dita Von Teese, who is just absolutely stunning looking. And I remember seeing her years ago and being obsessed with her because of the vintage style that she had. And then later on discovered, why she was famous, because she's this outrageously talented burlesque performer. So I kind of looked into it a little bit and I was very interested in it. But like that, I was kind of younger at the time, and I don't know if anybody knows, but I'm from Athlone, which is in Westmeath in Ireland. And it's a very small town, and, stuff like that you just wouldn't see, and you wouldn't even know how to get into it to start with. So I just kind of, it was left as something I'd be like, oh, eventually someday I'll get to try that out. And it wasn't until years and years later. And it was actually, I was like 32. And I decided that I needed to do burlesque really soon before gravity took hold of everything I had. So yeah, while basically my boobs were perky, I wanted to make sure that I did one thing I always wanted to do, and that was to do burlesque. So I actually just started looking into it and looking into the Irish burlesque scene. And I think the first show, I had heard of different shows in Dublin and stuff like that, but the first show that I kind of found out about that was close enough to me was in Galway, and it was the Galway Burlesque Festival. And I contacted the Galway Burlesque Festival, asking them how would one get into doing burlesque, and I was actually talking to the beautiful Sheer Madness, and she was so nice, and she sent me like a list of things to do, like, go to workshops, go to shows. At this stage I had like already kind of picked my name with no character built yet or anything like that, and she was like, just do these things and then work from there. And that's what I did. I kind of reached out up in Dublin to the Dublin Burlesque Festival, and they had told me about workshops that were coming up, so I went to those, and I actually kind of had a flair for it. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally going to do this. So I went for it and did a few workshops, and then I was out one night and I was kind of celebrating the fact that I was like on the road to doing something I really wanted to do. And I had one too many drinks and was telling like a local DJ that I was, I'm going to be a burlesque performer. You wait and see. I'm going to be amazing. And being intoxicated, I agreed to performing at a charity event, which was like a month from the day we were talking about it. And keep in mind, I'd never performed before. But I actually agreed to perform at it. And then it was like 2 days later, the DJ contacted me and he was like, oh, I'm just sending you the details about the charity so you can start sharing this on your Facebook page. Like, I had never done it before, and I had signed up to do this charity. And I did. And that was my first performance in my little town of Athlone in front of loads of people that I knew. And that show itself was, I think, it was going to be whether I was going to stick with it or not, because I had never done it before. And I got up on the stage and I was so nervous, and I was kind of like, oh, now my glove is off and now I have to take a stocking off. And then it was eventually down to, oh my God, my bra is going to come off now and people are going to see my tassel covered boobs and I don't know how this is going to go down or how I'm going to feel. But like that, everybody was so supportive. It was amazing. And when I was finished performing, I just got this amazing rush that I'd never gotten before. And I was like, okay, I need to look more into this and actually start doing this more. And I did. And that's how you have Memphis Shell at a charity gig.
Yeah, fair play to you, because that's not an easy art form to get into. Like I'd say there has to be so much self-confidence involved, and like you definitely have to have the support of people around you, because it's just like you are literally bearing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like support is definitely something that people need, especially if they're going into, like Dookie said, pun intended, but you are bearing all on stage. And having people support you, and like all my friends were there, they were so good about it. My family knew I was doing it. Now they didn't come to see me because they were a little bit freaked about seeing me half naked on stage. But yeah, and even at the time, my boyfriend, now husband, was super supportive. He was there and said to me afterwards, he was like, you're a completely different person when you're on stage, you know, like the confidence and all of that. Whereas just the normal plain Jane Michelle that I am in my muggle life is quite opposite. So I think as a burlesque performer, you do need that alter ego. And that's Memphis Shell. She's the one that goes up and does all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the case with, I don't want to say all burlesque performers, but definitely a good amount of performers, is that they do have this alter ego where they're, you know, this strong, confident, beautiful person on stage, and then they get off stage and they're still beautiful, but they're kind of more reserved and, you know, inside themselves and a little bit more awkward, I suppose.
Oh yeah, it's like you get up on stage and you perform and it's absolutely amazing. And then you get off the stage and you're just looking for something like a nightgown to cover yourself. It's just like, I'm not as bad as I used to be. The burlesque community itself is actually very supportive. All the girls that are on the scene, they're so good to each other. Even when you're at gigs and you're backstage, if you're missing anything, you can be sure there's someone that's going to be there, like probably Bella Curve, that has some sort of box of tricks. And if you forget anything, the girls are there to help you out. They're really, really nice. So I've actually gotten just a little bit more comfortable backstage where I'm not rooting for something or hiding behind something.
Yeah, no, I think because from my experience, like I've done a couple of shoots with burlesque performers and they're, you know, they're getting changed into their outfits and they're all chatting, they're having a great time. And I'm kind of standing in the corner behind a chair going, don't look at me, don't look at me.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I remember the first like kind of official photo shoot I would have had was actually with Miss Burlesque Ireland in 2016. And I remember going up and the photo shoot was actually the day after my first performance here in Athlone. So I went up to the photo shoot a little bit shook and went up. I had what it was going to be like. And I have these girls who were there that have been performing for like years. And they're all just there and they're like trying on different bits of costumes and all that sort of stuff. And I'm looking around for the changing room, you know, so it's like over time, I suppose you get used to it. But myself now, I would have been very like, oh no, don't look at me.
Yeah. But even just looking at like just following your journey in burlesque, you were one of the ones who definitely jumped in at the deep end. And do you think that was more, you know, because you'd put off for years saying, I'm going to do it, that maybe you needed that push to be like, okay, jump in, do a charity event and then a competition and then one after the other kind of thing?
Yeah, like the competition was not something I was even thinking about at the time. I was literally like, oh, baby steps. But like that, I had done the workshops, and one of the workshops I did was actually with Azaria Starfire, who is the producer of Miss Burlesque Ireland. And she was there and we were doing like a fan workshop. And she approached me and she said, oh, you know, have you heard of Miss Burlesque Ireland? And I was like, no, I haven't. And she was like, you definitely should apply. And I was like, I have never performed before in my life. And she was like, you have that look in your eye, you should definitely apply. And she was like, just send your application, go home, have a look at, you know, the website, send on your application and see what happens. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I did, and I got through to the semi-finals, which rattled me because I wasn't ready for it. So like that, I did. I threw myself in face first and I just went for it, and I was kind of like hoping for the best. I just kind of, I feel looking back that by getting into Miss Burlesque Ireland in 2016, I just kind of met all the right people all at the right time. I just like kind of hit the ground running with like meeting all these performers and having all these new connections all of a sudden, and you know, all their wisdom being given to me that I absorbed like a sponge, you know. And yeah, but it like my journey to where I am now has been like so much fun and strange, but it's been fun.
Well, if it's not strange, I don't think you're doing it right. You know, you have to have some stories.
Yeah.
So that was in 2016. So you've been performing since then.
Yes, I have been performing since then. Like I had done the semi-finals for Miss Burlesque Ireland in 2016, and then I had gotten in through a wild card. So I actually got into the finals as well. But I was told like 2 weeks before the finals, because the girl who had originally gotten the wild card actually had to drop out. And I was basically next in line points wise. So I was called, and I had only like 2 acts that I had put together just for the semi-finals, because I never thought I was going to get through to the finals. And I had 2 weeks to put together a new act, which was like a unique act for that show. And in 2 weeks I had to have that done. But I got it done and I went on stage. I didn't fall. I was very happy with that. And it was great fun. Stressful, but it was great fun.
Well, yeah, I think competitions in their very nature are quite stressful. But like you said, you do get all the perks. You get, you know, you get to know people, you learn things, you push yourself, which is kind of the trade-off for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it really is stepping out of your comfort zone. Like I am not a dancer. I'm a performer, but I'm not a dancer. I've never done like drama or dance classes or anything like that. So a lot of it was figuring out what kind of performer I am. You look at the likes of, like, say, the beautiful Bonnie Boo, who is like a dance teacher, and you look at like Bella Curve, who is like a classically trained ballerina, and you're just like looking at these people going, oh my God, how am I supposed to compete with that? But the Memphis side of things seems to be slow, steady, and stare people down is what I seem to do.
Intimidate the audience.
Yeah, and it seems to work because they seem to enjoy it. I find it actually, when I'm in Memphis mode, it's like, especially for like photo shoots, and Rick Taylor will tell you this, it's like I will not smile for a picture at all. It's always a stare down the lens. And it's actually gotten to a stage, if I am having a photo shoot with Rick Taylor and if I smile, he's like, Memphis, please don't smile. Yeah, it's just like this awkwardness that I get. It's like I have performed before and done a performance where it was like a little bit more upbeat, and where I'd be smiling on the stage and my face physically starts twitching on my cheeks, because it's like, what are you doing? You like, stop smiling. This is not what you do. Just keep staring at people.
Don't let people know you're enjoying this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So just to talk a bit about your style of burlesque, because I know there's lots of different styles. You know, there's classic, there's nerdlesque, there's kind of more dance and all that kind of stuff. But you would be, am I right in saying you would be more along the lines of horror burlesque?
Yes, definitely. I suppose like my neo for Miss Burlesque Ireland in 2016 was like a Bride of Frankenstein tribute performance, where I was the Bride of Frankenstein, and I had Frankenstein on stage trying to, you know, beat the monster out of me. And of course, you know, I didn't like that and ripped his heart out and that sort of thing. But like, I do like the neo style, but I kind of tend to go towards like a classic burlesque routine, and then kind of mix just a little bit of sexy horror in there. For anybody who hasn't seen it, my Bloodlust routine, which I had done for Miss Burlesque Ireland in 2018, it's like my costume is like all white, and it's red rhinestones from like the front breast part of it right down to the bottom of the skirt, and it's all done like it's blood flowing down. So I do like to get like a horror theme kind of into any performance that I do, kind of like a dark mood, dark music, dark costumes. So coming out in white in Miss Burlesque Ireland shocked a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's because I've seen those pictures, that's kind of when I see that, I go, that is Memphis Shell, the white dress covered in blood kind of thing. That's like definitive Memphis.
Yeah, it's like sheer madness actually made that costume the amazing queen that she is. yeah, we had an idea of like kind of what we wanted, and Cher was like, why don't you wear white? And I was like, why would I wear white? And she was like, nobody will expect you to wear white. And I was like, that's true. And then of course she settled me down by saying, you know that white is originally a goth color. And I was like, okay, well then I'm wearing white. So
I'm in.
I'm in. Throw the white dress on me. It's fine. But yeah, she sent me like a few ideas, and I had basically said to her, just go with it. You know what I like, and you know, you can show me the finished product. And so she did. And she basically said to me, she pictured this as if I was ever going to get married. This would be my wedding dress. And this is what she envisioned me in. It's absolutely fantastic costume. And like that, anybody that sees it, like they're just like, that costume is so iconic. It gets so much praise. The performance gets a lot of praise, but it's mostly the costume.
Ah, yes, but who's wearing the costume?
Okay, right. Well, I'll take some sort of compliment. So
I mean, the costume is gorgeous, but you know, it's the person wearing the costume. Like, you have to be able to sell it.
yeah, that's true. And it's like when I wear it, like, you know, it's almost like I live and breathe the costume, as farty as that sounds. But yeah, it's kind of like you embody your costume, I suppose, when you're wearing it. So yeah, I absolutely love it. It's my favorite costume that I own.
And do you ever, if you don't mind me asking, do you ever just like take it out and wear it around the house?
I actually haven't. I do take it out and look at it every now and then and just admire it. And sometimes I'll go back and look at pictures of Miss Burlesque Ireland, or even like the videos of it, just to see the costume walk around the stage. I'm just like, you know, when you own something and you're like, I can't believe that's mine. It's
Yeah.
like, it's one of those, it's like my prized possession. I'm just like, but it's like properly stored away. Like I'm just so finicky about it. I'm just like, I'm afraid that anything will happen to it, you know?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, that's fair.
Like I have been minding it. It did once get a little stain on the back of it, and it was just like stage kittens rushing, picking up stuff, and they actually put my shoes on top of the back of the skirt, and it just got a little kind of black stain on the back of it. But a bit of vanish will take that off.
Good old vanish.
Good old vanish. Needs a bit of a revamp anyways, because like since I've done it in 2018, like what, well, I thought 2020 would be a good year, but hey, yeah, for like a full year solid, that acne all over Ireland. I even went to Berlin with it. So I think it needs a bit of a facelift now at this stage. It's missing a few beats.
Well, yeah, speaking of isolation and that, because I know you used to actually run your own shows as well, and isolation and lockdown and has obviously affected that. So what have you been doing to kind of keep yourself ticking over in the meantime?
Well, I've actually been still working. My muggle job is I make medical devices and test medical devices. It sounds fancier than what it is, but that's what I do in my muggle job. And we were obviously essential. So I stayed working, but like that, like everybody else, when I wasn't in work, I was just kind of at home, either watching Netflix or eating my body weight in food. But yeah, I kind of just one day decided, yeah, I need to start talking to my burlesque people. I miss them. I miss performance so much. So I just started doing like Instagram lives, which is called the Memphis Motel, where I get Irish artists, performers, stage managers, artists, anything that Ireland has to offer talent wise. I started interviewing people on Instagram lives, and I started with the contestants for Miss Burlesque Ireland this year and Mr. Boylesque Ireland. I was actually doing a good stretch of them there for a while, and then kind of things got worse in the world, and I was like, I think I'm just going to need to take a little break. So yeah, I took a break for I think 2 weeks now. So they should be back up and running, I'd say, in the next 2 weeks, because I have loads of people waiting to have their interview with me, where literally they just come on live and we just have a few drinks and talk about isolation and life, I suppose, as a performer at home, and you know, just doing other stuff I suppose you wouldn't have done before isolation. I've also taken up skating, actually, on roller skates. I used to do it years ago, obviously, as a kid, but like they were literally stuck to my feet all the time. And it was something I really wanted to get back into. I never had time, and I just bought myself a pair and started back up again. I haven't fallen yet, and I'm very proud of that. And yeah, I'm getting there. And eventually, I suppose you'll see some really cool skilled videos on my Instagram account.
Well, that's a pretty good mix of like you've got your work, you've got your play, and then you've still got your creative performer space. It's actually a great kind of mix of things to keep you going.
Yeah, I mean, like if Bella Curve was on with us now, she'd say that one is a sesh ma, because I absolutely do love the sesh. I really do. I love having a night out with my friends and I love going to shows. I love having a few drinks. But like my alcohol intake has been like so limited, apart from when I'm doing the lives. But I wouldn't just decide to open like a bottle of wine at the weekend and feel like, oh, you deserve this. You know, I nearly need to be on a live or chatting to somebody and have them drinking with me for to do it, because I'm so used to like having drinks in a social environment. It's never really at home, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose doing like a lot of burlesque shows, they would mostly, if not almost exclusively, be in places that would, serve alcohol. So probably having a few drinks backstage and having the chats and the whole camaraderie thing.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, I'm an adult and I know how much I can take before I go on stage. And it's normally just like a glass of wine. It would be 2 glasses of wine if I'm doing Bloodlust, because Bloodlust is fairly raunchy. If anybody hasn't seen it, I hump the floor. So I need a little bit of courage for that. So yeah, I'll always have like a little sip when I'm at shows, and I am missing that so much. I'm a social butterfly. I can't help it.
No, that's fair. So for anybody listening at home, where is the best place to keep up to date with you or see your acts if you have any online?
Probably my Instagram account. The content is a little bit confused at the moment because the world is confused at the moment. So I have been trying to keep people up to date with what I'm doing burlesque wise. And I suppose I've added my skating in there just because I love putting up stories and adding music. It makes me look cooler than what I am. But yeah, there, I suppose, Facebook, you can find videos of me on YouTube, mostly through Miss Burlesque Ireland, or the Dirty Circus. The Dirty Circus have a few videos up as well.
Brilliant. And you haven't mentioned here that you do stuff for the Dirty Circus, and you've performed at Electric Picnic as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh my God, the festivals of festivals and the sessions of sessions. It was like, I don't know if you have seen the pictures that just went up online after the Electric Picnic last year. It was like the Dirty Circus, like that. I would have worked with them a lot. Like I owe an awful lot to them because they have brought me all over Ireland. Tommy and Gemma, they're the business. They're so helpful and very trusting. Like Tommy could ring you and he could say to you, oh, I have this show and it's themed in a certain way. And it could be like, we want Bloodlust, but could you do something else? And I'd be kind of like, I don't know if I have anything else that would suit. And then Tommy would be like, I should just put something together. We trust you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we built up like a great relationship. I suppose they seen me at Miss Burlesque Ireland one year. And then, yeah, we just built up this relationship where if they needed me, I was there and I loved performing with them. And then they like to joke and say that I'm such a diva, which actually means I'm not. I'm so non-phased by stuff. I'm just like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll be there when I'll be there. Like, I'm always on time, but I just don't panic and I don't demand for a lot when I'm there. So they were kind of like, would you like to join us at the Electric Picnic? And I actually couldn't believe my luck. So the first year I actually did the Electric Picnic with them was with Jerry Fish's sideshow that he has at his tent. And then last year there was a new tent that went up, which was the Burlesque and Cabaret tent. And I think that was was it Newtown or something it was called? So, he was able to take a good few burlesque performers and cabaret performers and all sorts of performers with him. And we went down and just basically had our own little like Electric Picnic commune, like literally at the back of the tent we were performing in. It was absolutely amazing and it went really, really well. It was so well organized and we literally had the best time. Like Bonnie Boo was absolutely hilarious. If you're ever interviewing her, just ask her about the bucket that she had at the Electric Picnic. I won't go into it. I'll let her talk about that. Yeah, it was so much fun and I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of the highlights of, like, say, my burlesque career. I know it's nothing mental. I don't do a full-time or anything, but yeah, it was definitely, besides Miss Burlesque Ireland and the Galway Burlesque Festival, it's definitely one of my favorites, the electric picnic with all the Dirty Circus family.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Electric Picnic is one of those things where if you're an artist in Ireland, it's kind of like a rite of passage. If you haven't worked it at one point or another, it's kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I went down on like the Thursday night, and we were there like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we came home the Monday. And like I was just a write off, and that was just from camping. It wasn't even from drinking. I was like, I'd be killed by so many performers who are older than me for saying this, but I am so old. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm staying in a tent like a teenager. It was great. I did it. I felt like Bear Grylls.
Yeah, I know. I totally get the feeling. I'm not one for camping at all. And I've done Electric Picnic twice now. The first time was for Jellyfish, and then the second time was for Just Eat. But the first time we went, we were staying, obviously we were there for body painting, and we were staying in the, it was like the performers campsite, the designated area. But our tent, the first year, it like pretty much rained the whole weekend, but our tent wasn't exactly set up for that kind of weather. So we woke up one morning.
Oh no.
And the tent was still standing, in fairness, it was still standing, but some of the roof had kind of caved in. And the front part, so there was two sections of the tent. So we were in the back sleeping area, and then there was kind of like a little hangout, put your luggage there section. But basically that section had flooded. And the woman I was staying with at the time, she was a body painter, but she was also an engineer. So she got up straight away, you know, and put the roof back up and fixed everything. And then I said, okay, what are we going to do about this massive puddle in the front? And she just went, yeah, okay. And she like picked up, you know, a bunch of cans and put it in, and she was like, there we go, we've got a cooler now.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. It's like, it's amazing what like you'll actually think of and what you'll do when you're there. Like I actually remember Bonnie Boo getting up at the first morning we were there, and it's like, oh, I'm going to head up to the performers area, because we actually stayed literally behind our tent. So she was heading up to the performer area to have a shower. And when she went up there, came back and she was like, there is no way that we are actually getting into a shower anytime today. So there was like this medical tent which was beside where we were staying, and there was just like this tap at the side of it, and it was cold, very, very cold water. So I was like, guys, we could literally just use bottles. And there was like a cubicle or a portaloo like right beside it, but it had one of those grates at the bottom that, you know, I suppose if anybody piddled on the ground, it'd just go out into the ground rather than stepping all over it. And I was like, well, you know, we could just pass bottles of water to each other and rinse ourselves off. So that's what we did. We were very supportive, and we filled the bottles for each other and had freezing cold showers. But I swear to God, it's the best shower I ever had. I felt so awake, obviously. And I also washed my hair, and my hair looked fantastic.
Well, I mean, they do say cold water is good for your hair.
Yeah, icicle water.
And like when you're at Electric Picnic and stuff, you would kill for a shower. Like especially by Sunday, you're just like, I will kill somebody for a shower.
Yeah, I mean, like it can get very gritty, but like we did that every morning we got up. We all just headed over with our towels and just stood beside this medic tent and just filling bottles of water and washing each other.
Brilliant.
It was a lovely bonding experience. It was great.
Well, I mean, you know, they do say that Burlesque family, and I suppose you've never been closer than after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I suppose.
So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to touch on?
No, I think we've actually covered everything.
Okay, awesome.
I think I'm trying to remember what I actually sent you. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I said these things. Let's talk about these things.
Oh, well, actually, one thing we could do is just before we go is I don't think we promoted your burlesque shows in Athlone.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I am also a producer. I always forget that. Yeah, I produce like the only burlesque show in the Midlands at the moment, I suppose. But yeah, I produce a show called Only After Dark. Obviously, we are not sure when we are coming back. You know, we can only go with the flow and what the government says. But we have a page on Instagram and we have a page on Facebook, and people can join that if they want to keep in touch with us and find out when we have our next show. I always get like beautiful Irish performers. I think it's very important to support our local performers. You know, it's kind of much the same as yourself with your podcast.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, you don't want people to just like fade away because the fact that we're not on stage right now. You know, it's like, it's great to have other platforms to promote performers on. It's like, even when I seen that you were doing the podcast, I was like, this is a great idea. We need more of this. And congratulations to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And congratulations to you as well, because, you know, you're supporting Irish artists too, and it's very important.
Yeah, thank you, darling.
Of course, we're all in this together.
Yes, we really are, aren't we?
Yeah. So what we're going to do as well is we're going to put, for anyone listening, if you want to keep up with Memphis, we're going to put links to all of her Instagram and her, we'll do links to her burlesque show as well, and as much stuff as possible. And definitely go support her, because she is also supporting other people, which means that you will also be supporting other people, which is amazing.
Yes, and that's the main thing, to support each other.
Yes, absolutely. So Memphis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
It has been an absolute pleasure. It's lovely to talk to all my sparkly friends. I love my muggle friends, but I need some sparkle in my life sometimes.
Yes. Good words to go by. We all need some more sparkle in our lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. But thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, darling. Stay creepy.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in the future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.